Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Tom Betts, your host. This is season 5, episode 6, overall number 106. Today we're going to talk about our continued series of the history of the Spaghetti Western, and we're going to talk about 7 from Texas. As far as whatever happened to, we're going to talk about Angel del Pozo. Who are those guys? Spartaco-Conversi. Film of the week will be Any Gun Can Play. Got some posters from that film. Got an autograph of the week. We'll finish up with the weekly news. So bear with me on 7 from Texas. I've made a bunch of notes, so I've got to be careful on how I approach this and get them all in. But anyways, the history of the Spaghetti Western is 7 from Texas. We're still in 1964. Fistful of Dollars has basically come out. So these films were made at the same time. And the Spanish films are a little bit more spaghetti-ish than the Italians were at this time. And this is a Spanish-Italian film co-production. The Spanish title is Camino del Sur, also Antes Lege la Muerte, and Hora de Morir. The Italian title is I Sette del Texas. English titles are Second Chance, Hour of Death, 7 Guns from Texas, and 7 from Texas. As I said, it's a 64 Spanish-Italian co-production. Director was billed as Paul Marchante. It's actually Joaquin Luis Romero Marchant. Story was by Federico de Urrutia and Manuel Sabares. Screenplay is by those two plus Joaquin Luis Romero Marchant. Cinematography was by Rafael Pacheco. In real life, that's Rafael de Usa. Also by Fausto Zuccoli. It's an Eastman color and total scope. Music is by Riz Ortolani. Runs 98 minutes. Main cast members are Bob Carey or Gringo, is played by Paul Piaget. Ringo, played by Robert Hundar. Maria by Gloria Maland. Aquacestas or Scometti was played by Fernando Sancho. He seems to be in everything in these days. Dan was played by Benny Diaz. Rogers was played by Paco Sanz. Jeff was played by Ralph Baldwin, who's actually Rafael Baldassar. Bert was played by Alvaro de Luna. You'll see a couple of Union lieutenants at the fort scene. They were played by our friends Lorenzo Robledo and Roman Ariznavareta. And Tom was played by Indio Gonzalez. Story goes as such. The film opens with Gringo, or Bob Carey, played by Paul Piaget, being released from prison. He's been there for the past 5 years for shooting a man in a duel. He pleaded self-defense, but the man's 3 brothers testified it was murder, hoping that the judge sentences him to hang. Instead, the judge decided it was manslaughter and sentenced him to 5 years. Arriving back in his hometown, he runs into one of the brothers, Ringo, played by Robert Hundar, who challenges him to a duel. Learning his lesson, Bob shoots him through both hands instead of killing him. While he was in jail, Bob's fiancée, the beautiful Maria, played by Gloria Milan, has married an older man named Clifford, played by Jesus Puente. What Bob doesn't know, what even Maria doesn't know, is that she has a malignant tumor and that Clifford is told that there's only a small chance that one of these fancy doctors in the town of Laredo might be able to save her. Clifford hires 5 men to accompany him on a journey to Laredo in hopes of saving her life. It's a dangerous journey through the mountains, the desert, and Indian territory. Of course, Bob volunteers to escort the wagon, and Ringo and his brothers tag along, hoping to exact revenge and eliminate Carey somewhere along the way. We also see the struggle with Maria's feelings toward her husband and her former lover as they travel through the desert and Indian territory. Some of the other guys that are accompanying the trip Ralph Baltazar and Fernando Sancho and his buddy are in it hoping that they can convince uh, their buddy Robert Hundar to change his mind and steal Clifford's money. The story was based on a real life story of Joaquin Luis Romero Marchand's mother, who the doctors had diagnosed as having terminal lung cancer. The family tried everything to try and save her life to no avail. Marchand kept this in mind while directing the film in the desperate attempt to save a loved one, and it shows in its direction and acting. The critics feel this is more of a Spanish attempt at a Winnetou film than an American film. Many feel this is Hundar's best Western, as he really has an opportunity to act and show his macho self as well as his tender-hearted self who comes to terms with his feelings. Fernando Sancho plays a sidekick role to Piaget's Bob Carey. He wasn't used as the perennial Mexican bandit and outlaw at this time. Being an early Spanish spaghetti Western, it only has moments of the Clint Eastwood Sergio Leone style and still more like an American film. The Indian attacks, which are two, look much more like Winnetou film than it does American films. The score by Riz Ortolani is very well done and adds to the ambiance. It's funny though when you see Laredo at the end of the film that it's a small village and much smaller than the town that they leave. This is available or will be available on Blu-ray when it's released from First Line Films /MVD on March 28th. Right now it's available on DVD only in Italy and Spain, but you can watch it on YouTube in English, and it's a decent print. I watched it sometime last week so I could get the gist of the film once again, since it's been a while since I've seen it. The entire plot is the men accompanying the wagons are only waiting for either revenge or attempt to steal Clifford's money. Jeff fails and is kicked out, and in revenge eliminates their water supply by shooting holes in the water barrels and then commandeers the only water hole on the route. This brings out the showdown at the climax of the film. As far as actors' bios are concerned, Bob Carey, played by Gringo, is Paul Piaget, a Spanish actor born in 1937. He passed away in 1985. We've previously covered him in episode number 67. Ringo is played by Robert Hundar, born Claudio Undari, born in 35, died in 2008. He was an Italian actor at this time. He was considered the king of the spaghetti westerns. He had moved from Italy to Madrid and so shows up in many of the early Spanish spaghetti westerns. He was previously covered in his own special episode number 20. Maria Gloria Milan was born Maria Fee on October 11, 1940 in Cagliari, Sardinia, Italy. She was a film, TV actress and appeared in 35 films from 1959 to 1967. Excuse me, among those films were 10 spaghetti westerns. Her performances in the genre range from the love interest to matrons. She played Robert Hundar's mother in Gunfight at High Noon the year before and was actually 5 years younger than he was. She died of cancer on August 27, 1989 in Latispoli, a suburb of Rome, Italy. She was only 48 years old. Spaccametti, or Aposenta, played by Fernando Sancho, was born Fernando Les. He was a Spanish actor born in 1916. He died in 1990. We covered him in his own special episode at number 9. Clifford was played by Jesus Puente. Jesus Puente was born Jesus Puente Alzaga on December 18, 1930 in Madrid. He was a Spanish film and TV actor and appeared in over 130 films and TV appearances, with 15 being spaghetti westerns. He was sometimes credited as Joe Punter. He was married twice, once to actress Maria Luis Rubio, born in 35. She died in 2005. And they fathered 2 children. Then he married actress Licia Calderon, born in 1933. She's still with us, and was the father of another child. Puente died in Madrid of a heart attack on October 26, 2000, at the age of 69. He appeared in such spaghetti westerns as Apache Fury in 1964 as Judge Toby Driscoll, which we covered in episode number 97. Adios Gringo with Juliana Gemma in 65 as Sheriff Saul Tex Slaughter. He was in Bandidos in 67 and two Peter Martell westerns, Two Crosses at Danger Pass, and Sheriff T. Mitchell in Ringo the Lone Rider, 67 and 68 as Mayor Corbett. I wanted to cover one more abstract, forgotten actor like we did with Edith Peters. This is Lin Chu, played by Gregorio Wu. He plays the Chinese cook. Gregorio Wu was born Wu Pak Chu in Gansu, China on January 6, 1913. He graduated from the Shanghai Conservatory of Music in 1937, and in 1946 he left China and enrolled as a fourth-year student at the Accademia di Santa Cecilia in Rome, graduating in 48 at the top of his class. He later studied privately under the legendary tenor Beniamino Gigli. While singing in concert halls and on radio and television programs throughout Europe, he started appearing in film roles. He acted in many comedies with Toto and the comedy team of Franco and Ciccio. He was also featured in various Euro spy films and appeared in a long line of photoromanzi magazines. He was usually uncredited, even though several of the roles he played were fairly large. Among his almost 30 films were three spaghetti westerns as Lin Chu in 1964's Seven from Texas, and as bartenders in The Son of Django and Johnny Hamlet, aka The Wild and the Dirty, both in 67. Gregorio returned to Hong Kong in 1969, where he gave his final performance in a recital for the Lingnan University Alumni Association. After retiring from the concert stage, he spent his time teaching vocal and choral singing at various secondary schools. He died in Hong Kong on March 31, 1974, at the age of 61. Wu was married and had two daughters, one being actress Elizabeth Wu, born in 1948. He's probably best remembered for his appearance in Hercules Against the Barbarians in 1964. Okay, moving right along, we're going to talk about whatever happened to Angel del Pozo. We gringos know him as Angel del Pozo. He's probably really known as Angel del Pozo. Was born Angel del Pozo Moreno on July 14, 1934 in Madrid. He was sometimes credited as Anthony Clark. Angel was an actor and director who made his debut in 1960 and has appeared in over 80 films. In his 15 spaghetti westerns, he usually played cowardly or devious characters. A prime example is his best remembered as Shep Miller, the rapist murderer, in 1966, The Big Gun Down with Lee Van Cleef. Another devious character was Captain Lefevre in Fort Yuma Gold with Juliana Gemma, also from 66. In the 1970s, he drifted into television and directing. He tired of both and retired in 1980. Angel said in a 2020 interview he admittedly didn't like being an actor. He started his career as a stage actor, which he believed he would have been very successful at, but cinema was simpler and he continued to be offered one film after another. Plus, he rejected 20 films. From 1990 to 2008, he worked as an executive producer and public relations exec at the Gestavision Group from Mediaset Hispana Comunicación. In April 2020, he survived COVID-19, and also in 2020, he received the Tabernas de Cinema Award at the Almeria Western Film Festival. Asked about the films he appeared in with Lee Van Cleef and his relationship with him, he stated he thought Lee was a very good actor and they became very good friends. He was about 2 inches taller than Angel and they got along very well. Lee was a quiet man and spent most of his time during filming with his wife and double, Romano Pupo. Angel was also good friends with American actors Yul Brynner and Robert Taylor. Today he lives in retirement in Madrid. Some of his best film appearances and best remembered for The Big Gun Down in '66 as Shemp Miller, Fort Yuma Gold in '66 as Captain Lefevre, Face to Face in '67 as Maximilian de Winton, Wrath of God in '68 as David, El Condor in '69 as a lieutenant, The Price of Power in '69 as a lawyer, Ketlo in '71 he played Captain Francisco Vargas, Pancho Villa in '71 he played Lieutenant Eager, and his last spaghetti western, The Man Called Noon in '73 he played Ben Jonish. Okay, next we'll talk about who are those guys and SpartacoConversi. Okay, a face we've all seen 100 times, but most of us don't know his background. He was born Spartaco was his stage name, but he was actually born as Spartaco in Rome, Italy on October 6, 1916. He had his first film appearance in 1946 in a supporting role in Desiderio by Roberto Rossellini. Mostly credited as SpartacoConversi, he was usually seen as a bearded bit player with rough, craggy features who resembled American sidekick Gabby Hayes. He's probably best remembered when he's shot in the eye through the toe of Cheyenne's boot in 1968's Once Upon a Time in the West. He appeared in over 40 films from 1946 until 1973. Of those, 34 were Euro Westerns. He was sometimes billed as Spawn, S-P-E-A Converi, Spanny Converi, or even Sean Converi, which was probably intended to remind the viewer of Sean Connery. Spartaco also worked behind the scenes as a production secretary and assistant manager. He was adept at playing gang members, ranch hands, and saloon brawlers, usually with a bad temper or gruff manner. Seldom did we find him on the right side of the law or a white hat good guy. Still, he was a stalwart of the genre and one of the most familiar faces of the supporting actors of the spaghetti western genre. SpartacoConversi died in Rome on June 7, 1989, of undisclosed causes. Some of his best remembered films were Johnny West in '65 as Jeff, The Big Gun Down in '66 as Mitchell, A Bullet for the General '66 as Cirillo, A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die in '67 as one of Kraut's henchmen, Wanted '67 as an Owl Rock's townsman, The Great Silence in '68 as Walter, A Long Ride from Hell in '68 as Bobcat Bates, Once Upon a Time in the West in '68 as Frank's henchman, Shango in '70 as Bragna, Man of the East in '72 as one of Austin's henchmen, and his last film, Hallelujah to Veracruz in '73 as a Miguel bandit. Okay, now we'll turn to the film of the week. Okay, film of the week. Let me lay these out. Film of the week is Any Gun Can Play. This is one of the first spaghetti westerns I saw, probably on late night TV, because it wasn't available at first over here in video form. Anyways, it's a '67 Italian film production. The Italian title is Vado Lamazo e Torno. English titles are Go Kill and Come Back. That's why the film is often confused with the Chuck Connors film of Go Kill and Come Back Alone. Another English title is I'll Go, I'll Kill Him and Come Back. Also For a Few Bullets More, and the UK USA most commonly known title, Any Gun Can Play. Produced by Edmondo Amati. Director is Enzo G. Castellari, which, as we know, is Enzo Girolami. Story is by Soro Scavallini, Romolo Guerrera, who's actually Romo Girolami, that's Enzo's uncle. Screenplay is by Tito Carpi, real name is Fiorenza Carpi, Giovanni Simonelli, and E.G. Roland, who's an alias for Enzo Castellari. Cinematography is by Gianni Bergamini. It's in Technicolor and Technoscope. Music is by Francesco De Masi, and it has one of the best main theme songs, Stranger, or Come Mai, sung by Raul, whose real name is Ettore Lovecchio. The main cast members are Clayton, played by Ed Burns, the Stranger slash Bounty Hunter slash Django, played by George Hilton, Monetero, played by Gilbert Roland, Wapo, or Marisol, played by Corinne O'Hara, Bahundo, played by Pedro Sanchez, Lawrence Bachman, the insurance inspector, played by Gerard Herder. Some other names you might recognize: there was a captain played by Ivano or Ivan Stasioli. The machine gunner or soldier with a machine gun is by Joaquin Parra. And Paco is played by Rick Piper, who's actually Ricardo Pizzuti. Story goes as three men are riding through a wind-blown, deserted town when they come across an undertaker carrying three coffins. A lone pallbearer, George Hilton, follows the wagon. When the rider in black asks who the dead men are, the stranger names the three men on horseback. He then states that one of them says, "I'm sorry, but he's naming us," and the stranger guns them down. Then he states, "Now it's your turn, Monetero." The undertaker asks if he thinks he's fast enough to take on the famous outlaw. He replies, "Faster. You can bet your last dollar on it." The bandit Monetero, played by Gilbert Roland, is then shown robbing a train while Clayton, Ed Burns, a young banker, rides inside. When the gold is stolen by Bahundo, played by Pedro Sanchez, who double crosses Monetero and hides the gold, the film then follows a familiar pattern of the three protagonists, the pallbearer, the stranger, Clayton, and Monetero, searching for the gold, double crossing one another with a high body count. The three main characters continually change allegiances and get the upper hand, only to be thwarted by fellow outlaws, the army, mysterious insurance investigator, and others. The three main protagonists meet in what looks like a three-way duel in an abandoned church, but I won't relay to you the surprise ending, but it's not what you expect. This is on Blu-ray in Germany. It's on DVD in the USA, UK, Germany, Spain, and Brazil. As far as talking points go, the film has one of the great opening scenes of the genre, which is often cut on video and DVD releases, at least in the early days. It shows three men riding into a deserted town. We see them from behind, and then the camera shows close-ups of them from the front. Obviously, they are lookalikes for the man with no name, Colonel Mortimer, and Django. There's plenty of action, a good dose of intelligent comedy, a little slapstick and altercation in the bathhouse scene, and being a Castellari film, there's some great stunt work. I asked Ed Burns about the scene in the marketplace with him jumping off and onto awnings and food stall coverings, and he said he did that all himself as he was a trained acrobat. It's another reason why they hired a lot of these American actors if they could do stunt work to cut down on the cost of each of these guys being supplied with a stunt double. This would be George Hilton's first Western and would be a model for his characters in the genre. Like Terence Hill, I wish both had stayed with more dramatic roles, but their love of comedy and lightheartedness made them international stars, so I can't argue with their success. You'll notice Burns' voice is dubbed, but it's close to his real voice. He did 3 films that year, so it's probably not available to do his own dubbing, and probably thought the film would never appear in the USA, so it didn't matter. A great De Masi score holds the film together and has one of the best vocals, Stranger, sung by Raul. It's a quite enjoyable film. One of the most disappointing aspects of collecting spaghetti western LPs back in the day, most of the time you never got to see a track listing. So when you ordered an album from Italy or England and it finally arrived, you were very disappointed to find the main theme vocal not on the album. Apparently, the LP producers didn't want to pay the vocal rights or royalties to the song, and they only included an instrumental version, which was fine, but still disappointing to us collectors. As far as actors' bios go, the Stranger, aka the Bounty Hunter, aka Django, is played by George Hilton. Born Jorge Acosta y Lara in Montevideo, Uruguay on July 16, 1943, 1934, he died in Rome on July 17th, 2019 at the age of 85. See our episode 19 with Jay and my interview with Daniel Camargo as we discuss in detail George Hilton and Anthony Steffens films and bios. Montenegro is played by Gilbert Roland, born Luis Antonio Damaso de Alonso on December 11, 1905 in Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico. He died in Beverly Hills, California on May 15th, 1994 at the age of 88. We previously covered him in episode 92. Fajundo is played by Pedro Sanchez, born Ignacio Spalla on May 5th, 1924 in Termini, Imerse, Tuscany, Italy. He died on September 2nd, 2005, Castigliaro, Perugia, Italy. He was 81. I covered him in greater detail in episode 104. Then we have the insurance inspector, Lawrence Bachman, played by Gerhard Herder. Gerhard Herder was born in Stuttgart, Germany on April 12, 1920, and died on February 27 in Munich, Germany at the age of 87. I covered him previously in episode 35. Then we have Clayton, played by Ed Burns. Ed Burns was born Ed Breitenberger on July 30th, 1933 in New York City, New York. He took up acting after trying his hand at several other jobs and became a summer stock player in Connecticut. He then moved to Hollywood, where he continued to work in small theater groups and appeared on a couple of TV series. In 1957, he signed a 3-year contract with Clarion Pictures and took a role in a Cheyenne TV episode with Warner Brothers, who liked his work and signed him to a long-term contract. In 1958, he was originally given the role of Kevin Smiley on the 77 Sunset Strip TV series. They changed his name to Gerald Cookson III with the nickname of Kooky. The rest is history. He became an overnight sensation with the teenage crowd. His continuous combing of his hair and his jive talking, calling everyone dad, such as terms as the coolest, piling up the Z's, meaning sleep, a dark 7, meaning a depressing week, caught on with the younger set. He soon was receiving 15,000 fan letters a week. He held out for more money and a bigger role with Warner Brothers and was replaced on the show by Robert Logan, who appeared in Catlow. The show's ratings slipped and Burns won out as they recast him as one of the detectives on the show. He also began to star in Warner Brothers films, but was forever typecast. He went to Italy and made 3 spaghetti westerns, Any Gun Can Play, Professionals for a Massacre, again with George Hilton, and Payment in Blood with Guy Madison, all filmed in 1967. Returning to the US, he was basically seen as a guest star on TV, and probably his last big role was the DJ Vince Fontaine in 1978's Grease. Last time I saw Ed was as a guest star at our first Los Angeles Spaghetti Western Festival in March of 2011. He died on January 8th, 2020 in Santa Monica, California. He was 87. Last but not least, we have Wapo, or Marisol, played by Corinne O'Hara. She was born Stefania Caradu di Sambrese on January 13th, 1943 in Bergamo, Italy. She was the daughter of writer Mariana Frigeni, born in 1909, died in 1997. As Stefania Caradu, she was a theater and film actress appearing in 16 films and TV series from 1961 to 1981. She's now retired. This was her only spaghetti western. Okay, we will now move on to the CD of the week. Okay, CD of the week first came out in LP form in Italy back in 1964. It was released by Beat on CR5. Had 17 tracks. Today's value is $30. Then it was released on a compilation CD with a couple of other Damasi westerns from Italy, also on Beat in 1994 on CD CR22. Had only 22 tracks from this film. Its value is $22. It's still available on Amazon. Then released again in 1998 by Beat. It was released in 1998, had 9 tracks. Value is $22. And then finally was released in 2011 on Beat. Had 16 tracks. It's the only soundtrack on the CD with a listing time of 42 minutes. And its value is $20. These are the two CDs that I collected over the years. You don't need copies of CDs with less tracks just because the covers may have changed. Okay, so CD of the week. We'll now turn to autograph of the week. Okay, autograph of the week is Elkie Summer, and this is from Frontier Hellcat. Elkie didn't appear at too many shows around town, collector shows, but she did pop up occasionally at the Rob Word award show, Golden Boots, and I was able to get an autograph from her at that time. So that's where the autograph came. Okay, let's show some posters from Tom's Poster Vault. Okay, from the attic. These are all going to be from Any Gun Can Play. We'll start off with the Belgium poster. These, at least you can recognize Hilton. And then we have the Italian. Excellent poster art on that one. Here's a Finnish poster from Finland. Then we have the German poster. This one's a biggie. And last but not least, we have the American release. That's what we have on Any Gun Can Play. Last but not least, we'll turn to the weekly news. Okay, for our German viewers, there's some news. Good news. The Bud Spencer Museum in Berlin has announced that it will be open longer than previously planned. Originally planned for only 1 year, the museum was extended last year until mid-2023. Now there's another 6 months extension. The museum will now be open until December 31st, 2023. It's open daily from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on December 31st, the museum will close with a New Year's Eve party. So if you haven't been there yet, you now have 11 months to visit and buy tickets. Okay? Then we have a couple of DVD releases. The first one is Italian DVD, Spartaco, which came out in '68, directed by Edward Dmytryk, stars Sean Connery, Bridget Bardot, Stephen Boyd, Woody Strode. This is made available on the 26th of January, and it's on Cult Media Label. It's in Italian with Italian subtitle, runs 113 minutes. Then we have a new German DVD Blu-ray combo of Rocco Ich Leg Dick, which is Django the Last Killer, 1967 film, directed by Giuseppe Verri and starring Anthony Ghidra, George Eastman, and Dana Gia. It's released on February 10th on the White Pearl Classics / Dorado Soul Food label. It's region B and contains 2 discs. It's a limited edition. It's in DTS-HD 2.0 English and German with subtitles available in German. Has a running time of 83 minutes. Extras include an English trailer, artwork gallery, and a 16-page booklet. And last but not least, we have at Boot Hill, R.I.P. Fernando Becerril. He's a Mexican theater, film, and TV actor who died on February 7th, 2023. He was 78. He was born in San Luis Potosi, Mexico in 1945 and began his studies at the School of Theater Fine Arts. In 1980, he received a scholarship from France to study theater arts. Fernando lived there in Paris for more than 20 years before moving back to Mexico after receiving a film offer. The nostalgia of living in Mexico was too strong, and he remained there acting in theater, films, and television. He appeared in only one Euro Western, 1999's Ravenous, as the Mexican commander. Okay, that wraps it up for this week. Hope you all have a good week and can join me next week for another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. Until then, this is a Roberto Genesi production, and adios, amigos.